Story 1. The Christmas Eve Visitor. I was a young child at the time, and Christmas Eve was my favorite night of the year. I would always lie awake in bed, waiting for Santa Claus to come down the chimney. One Christmas Eve, I was lying in bed, listening to the sound of the wind howling outside, when I heard a noise from downstairs. I crept out of bed and tiptoed down the stairs, careful not to make a sound. I reached the living room and peeked around the corner. To my surprise, I saw a tall, shadowy figure standing in front of the fireplace. The figure was wearing a long black coat and a wide-brimmed hat, and its face was obscured by the shadows. I was terrified, but I couldn't tear my eyes away from the figure. The figure turned around and looked at me, and I felt a chill run down my spine. The figure's eyes were glowing red, and its mouth was curled into a cruel smile. The figure raised its hand and pointed at me, and I knew that I had to run. I turned and fled back upstairs, as fast as my little legs could carry me. I slammed the door to my bedroom shut and hid under my bed, my heart pounding in my chest. I could hear the figure's footsteps echoing through the house, and I was sure that it was coming for me. I lay under my bed for what seemed like hours, listening to the sounds of the figure moving around my house. Finally, the sounds stopped, and I cautiously crept out from under my bed. I tiptoed down the stairs and peeked into the living room. The figure was gone, and there was no sign that it had ever been there. I was relieved, but I also knew that I would never forget the night that the Christmas Eve visitor came to my house. Story 2. The Christmas Eve Gift. I was a teenager at the time, and I was looking forward to spending Christmas with my family. We were going to have a big dinner, open presents, and watch Christmas movies. On Christmas Eve, I was upstairs wrapping presents when I heard a noise from outside. I looked out the window and saw a large, wrapped box sitting on my front porch. I was curious, so I went downstairs to investigate. I opened the front door and picked up the box. It was heavy, and it felt like it was full of something. I carried the box inside and opened it. Inside was a beautiful doll, dressed in a red dress and white fur coat. The doll had long, flowing hair and big, blue eyes. I was so excited about the doll, and I couldn't wait to show it to my family. I took the doll upstairs and put it on my dresser. Later that night, I was lying in bed, trying to sleep. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. I kept hearing strange noises from downstairs, and I felt like something was watching me. I finally got up out of bed and went downstairs to see what was going on. I wandered through the house, but I couldn't find the source of the noises. I was starting to get scared, so I decided to go back upstairs to bed. But as I was walking through the hallway, I saw the doll standing at the end of the corridor. The doll's eyes were glowing red, and its mouth was curled into a cruel smile. I was terrified, and I turned to run. But the doll was too fast for me. It caught up to me and grabbed me by the arm. I screamed, but no one came to help me. The doll dragged me into my bedroom and threw me onto the bed. Then, it climbed on top of me and started to strangle me. I fought back, but the doll was too strong. I was sure that I was going to die. But then, I heard a noise from outside. The doll froze and looked towards the door. I took the opportunity to break free from the doll's grip and run for my life. I ran out of my bedroom and down the stairs, as fast as I could. I burst out the front door and ran into the yard. I didn't look back until I was safely inside my car and driving away. I never saw the doll again, but I will never forget the night that it tried to kill me. Story 3. The Christmas Eve Ghost. I was an adult at the time, and I was spending Christmas Eve with my family. We were having a quiet evening, watching Christmas movies and drinking hot chocolate. Later that night, I was sitting in my living room, reading a book, when I heard a noise from upstairs. I thought it was one of my children, so I didn't pay much attention to it. But then, I heard the noise again. It was a soft, shuffling sound, like someone walking around barefoot. I got up from my chair and went upstairs to investigate. I checked all the bedrooms, but my children were all fast asleep. I started to feel uneasy, so I decided to go back downstairs. But as I was walking down the stairs, I saw a figure standing in the hallway. The figure was tall and thin, and it was wearing a long, white gown. It had long, flowing hair, and its face was pale and gaunt. I was terrified, and I turned to run. But the figure blocked my path. It extended its arms towards me, and I could see that its hands were long and bony. I screamed, but no one came to help me. The figure lunged at me, and I felt its icy grip on my arm. I struggled to break free, but the figure was too strong. It dragged me down the hallway and into the living room. I was sure that I was going to die. But then, I saw something that made my heart stop. The figure was standing in front of the Christmas tree, and it was surrounded by presents. The presents were all wrapped in white paper, and they had red ribbons on them. The figure raised its hands in the air, and the presents began to shake. Then, they burst open, and a horde of demons flew out of them. The demons were ugly and terrifying, and they had sharp fangs and claws. They swarmed around me, and I felt their hot breath on my skin. I closed my eyes and waited for the end. But the end never came. Instead, I heard a voice. The voice was deep and powerful, and it echoed through the room. "You are not welcome here," the voice said. "Leave this place at once." The demons looked up at the voice, and they were filled with fear. They turned and fled, disappearing into the darkness. The figure in the white gown turned towards me, and I saw that it was smiling. The smile was sad and gentle, and it filled me with hope. "You are safe now," the figure said. "You are home." I opened my eyes, and I saw that I was back in my living room. The figure was gone, but the feeling of peace that it had given me remained. I knew that I would never forget the night that I met the Christmas Eve ghost. It was a night of terror and darkness, but it was also a night of hope and redemption.